Hi, this is Shane Gibson's podcast from closingbigger.net. Today, I've got a different type of interview format where I'm bringing someone or something onto the show to interview me around AI and the future of sales, my latest keynote. Who's joining me today is actually ChatGPT.
Hello, Shane. Thank you for having me on your podcast. Let's dive right in. First question, will AI help sellers or replace them?
Well, for me, I believe that AI will help sellers and replace them. The answer is yes. And it really is about whether or not we double down on our human skills, our aptitudes, and our creativity that's hard for AI to replicate, and leverage AI to automate and also augment our intelligence. If we're not willing to do that, then yes, we will be replaced if we're used to just cutting and pasting, doing rote activities and admin, and all those types of things that actually will essentially be done effectively by AI and arguably more efficiently by AI.
That's a great point, Shane. Given the significant decrease in the number of sales positions over the past few years, what do you think is driving this change? And how should sales professionals adapt?
Well, I think that what's driving the change is obviously shifts in the marketplace. We've had a bit of a down economy in Canada. There's been major retrenchments in the tech space. So yes, there are a lot fewer open positions because of this. But also there are some other trends. One of them is around the need for sales professionals to be multi-channel communicators, right? We're dealing with 20 different channels today as comparison to like 6 channels typically a decade ago. Also impacting that, of course, is the fact that what's replaced people during tough times with companies has been AI and automation. They, in essence, aren't hiring back all the people that they leverage or augmented with AI in the past. And so what's happening today is we've got these convergence of trends. We've got artificial intelligence, we've got multi-channel selling, and a bigger need for technical skills, which in many cases traditional salespeople don't have. So although there's fewer jobs, though, they're actually better paying for those that are qualified in these areas.
That's really insightful. With buyers using over 20 channels to make decisions, how should sales teams adapt to this multi-channel approach to effectively engage with their prospects?
Well, I think what we look at from this perspective is adapting to the multi-channel approach has multiple layers. One of them is understanding that if I move from even a LinkedIn to a Twitter, to an Instagram, to email, to in-person communications, that requires a different level of formality and cadence. And there's best practices in each of those platforms as well. In addition to this, because we want to communicate on multiple channels with multiple clients, we also have to understand how to leverage tools like artificial intelligence to automate this and help us not do everything manually. If we're on 20 different channels, it's hard for us to listen to 20 different channels and take the same idea or content and actually distribute that across 20 different channels manually without spending all day doing it. And so leveraging AI in the right way, combined with the right social selling content strategy, can really help us as sales professionals.
Great points, Shane. In your book, Real Results in a Virtual Economy, you talk about a new competency map for sales professionals. Can you highlight some of the key competencies that are essential in today's sales environment?
I kind of started with those of the last question, but let me carry on from that. And that is that the key characteristics for skill sets in the new competency map for sales professionals is, number one, we still need the traditional selling skills. But we also have to layer onto that, I believe, more right brain sales skills. So digging deeper and really being a lot more holistic and human in our approach. So as more stuff gets automated and more things also become augmented with artificial intelligence, that narrows the breadth of the human skills or activities required to be successful in sales that AI can do. So this means getting better at creativity, problem solving, communications, rapport building, and also even selling through complex sales is another area which sales professionals really need to double down on. So these are our traditional sales skills, our right brain sales skills, which make us more effective as sales professionals, elevating us from just order takers, which AI can do well, and question answers, which AI can do well, to creators and partners with our clients. Now, in addition to that, we also need technical knowledge or technical intelligence, TQ. And that goes everything from creative prompt writing to understanding your sales tech stack to how to adapt to and learn new technologies and just curiosity in general. Then, of course, we have what I would call emotional intelligence applied to digital platforms. I mentioned that in the last question, which is really about how do I write for different channels and different people? What is the etiquette and how do I connect and build rapport through written language on digital channels in a lot of cases? And then finally, one of the other key skill sets, of course, is just social networking in general, both online and offline. Do I understand the core principles of building community, connecting with people, and adding value? And those are some of the things that are stacking on now to the traditional sales and marketing or sales competency map that we've seen traditionally, which is just, can I prospect, connect with someone, gain rapport, and close a deal? That's great, but if you don't have all that other stuff around it, you're not going to have a future in sales. That's a long pause.
That's an excellent overview. You also mentioned the concept of right brain selling. Can you explain what that is and why it's becoming more important in today's sales environment?
The term right brain selling is an age-old psychology term, and I'm using it slightly different. So I think that's an important thing to think about. I know there's debates around if there is such thing as a right brain or a left brain, but what I'm really talking about is things that are analytical, rote, process-oriented, that can be duplicated and replicated. Those are things that are left brain, right? And so even analyzing data, building a spreadsheet, entering stuff into a CRM, that's all left brain activity. It doesn't require creativity, innovation, rapport building, emotional intelligence. And so these are the right brain sales skills around creativity and connecting and working outside of the box, breaking the rules, humor, kindness, giving. These are all right brain sales skills, which I believe we need to double down on because that's what's going to be required in the future. Well, AI does most of the other stuff for us.
That's a great explanation, Shane. AI is expected to make millions of jobs redundant, but also create new opportunities. How can sales professionals ensure they are part of the new job growth rather than being left behind?
I think this goes back to our earlier conversation, and that is combining technical knowledge and the willingness to learn these new tech tools, even from understanding how I can put an AI workflow together as a sales professional to take a concept or communications and automate it and augment it with AI intelligence, combining that technical knowledge and that willingness to learn new technology with emotional intelligence and core people skills, core leadership and innovation skills. And that's what I believe. It's an interesting dichotomy because on one side I'm saying we're going to be replaced by technology, but we still need to understand it enough to supplement, automate, and augment ourselves and double down on those core people skills.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance. You've used the analogy of Iron Man to describe how AI can amplify sales professionals' abilities. Can you elaborate on this and give some practical examples of AI tools that can enhance sales performance?
Absolutely. So when I use the Iron Man analogy, I originally got that inspired by Gabe Larson many years ago when he was talking about AI and the Iron Man suit, and it stuck with me. And the great thing about the Iron Man concept is it isn't about hiring a robot as much as it is taking your humanness and stacking on technology to amplify who you are and what you're good at. And so a good example is Fathom. Fathom is an AI-based tool that I use to listen to all of my Zoom calls. It then, even though I'm a good listener, it listens even better. It doesn't stop listening when my mind carries off or I'm trying to think about what the client's saying and reformat my questions. It's listening to everything I say and they say. It's catching all the context. It's able to write summaries and really identify really interesting underlying points and motivations that I might have missed. But then I can use that data, feed it into ChatGPT, and then write a customized executive summary on a proposal. And that, for me, number one, actually improves my listening and absorption of information from clients, makes my proposal writing better and more client-centric, and does it much faster. Instead of taking a couple hours, it takes 10 minutes. So now I've got that Iron Man suit of Fathom bolted on, which means I'm better at listening, and I'm 5-10 times faster at the typical sort of analog data entry administration side of customizing a proposal. And so that means that when my competitors, if I can talk to 5 people in a week and get those proposals done, I can get that all done in one day. It would take them a whole week to do the same thing. And part of that's just being enabled by a tool like Fathom, added on to, of course, OpenAI's ChatGPT as a bit of an AI process. And so that's an example, kind of rudimentary, I guess, or off the top of my head, as a tool that you could utilize.
That's a fantastic example of how AI can truly augment human capabilities. According to recent studies, many salespeople are using AI for basic tasks like content creation and data analysis. What do you think they are missing, and how can AI truly transform their roles?
What they're missing is, and this is us as salespeople, we love a shortcut. We're like, how can I, put this off, or how can I never do this? Or, and this is why we fight with them to do Salesforce and fill their information and do data entry and do the proper reports and fill everything in and have their pipeline organized, because that's a lot of things that don't have anything to do with talking to customers, which is what we love to do. And so from this perspective, what they're missing, though, is because we all want everything, the hard stuff to be done or the boring stuff to be done. And that's what they think they can use AI for, which it is. But what they're missing is the part where AI makes us smarter. So both Salesforce and HubSpot have done in-depth studies of sales teams that are utilizing the AI-enabled aspects of their CRM. And those CRMs, through AI, are coaching people who to call and when, and who to reach out to based upon their algorithm, their data sets, and understanding client history, and also bigger data sets outside of your CRM. And it's increasing win rates by up to 20% for both Salesforce and HubSpot users, because that is where a CRM or an AI is actually augmenting your intelligence to make you smarter about who you're reaching out to and when, and what you're going to reach out to them about. And that's an example of AI making us smarter, or the ability to just press a button, and instead of me doing a ton of research on a client, having all that pulled up for me based upon a set of criteria, so that I don't have to spend a ton of time doing that, but it can coach me through the process. Fathom also, quick way to make me smarter, is it reminds me when I'm talking too much on a meeting. It'll actually pop up and say, hey, you're talking more than this percentage of time. And it reminds me of a sales best practice where I should be listening more than I'm talking. So these are ways that AI can actually coach us in the background and make us more effective as people. And sometimes we have some blind spots. So that's some of my thoughts there.
Those are excellent insights. Speaking of AI tools, can you share some of your favorite AI tools that you believe can significantly enhance sales and marketing efforts?
Absolutely. So I already talked about Fathom. So Fathom.video is one of my favorites. One that has helped me do 20 hours of marketing in a week, only with truly 2 hours of effort, has been a tool called Vidyo.ai. There's a number of tools out there that do what they do. I've been using this one for a while. I find it highly effective. It's vidyo.ai. And that actually will take, let's say, this video. I'll put this video and this recording into vidyo.ai. It'll find the best 30 to 45 second to 1 minute clips, caption them, get them all ready to put out on social platforms. And so from this one video that's 15 minutes or 20 minutes long, I'll have 12 pieces of content created for 4 platforms. Plus it can write me a summary of that update I can use for a LinkedIn post and for my blog post about this podcast, all done for me, with absolutely no effort on my end, and yet basically taking this 15 minutes of talking and creating, 48 pieces of content to grow through the web. So that's another favorite of mine. One that I've been talking about for years that's just getting better and better and better is Crystal Knows, which will actually, Crystal Knows will go in, look at someone's LinkedIn profile, some recent emails, tell you their personality profile, and then coach you on how you can shift your communications to get better at connecting with them. And so those are some of my favorite ones that I use on a frequent basis, of course, along with ChatGPT, which now I'm using to interview me for my own podcast, which I think is a pretty fun tool.
Those are some powerful tools, Shane. Looking ahead, what are some of the key trends and forces that you believe will shape the future of sales?
Well, the big one for me is digital first selling. And what I mean by this is that most of our clients are going to connect with us within our first or second interaction on digital platforms. So we have to think of ourselves as digital first sellers. So how good are my Zoom skills in connecting on these platforms to sell to people? Have I really got that dialed in well? Do I understand how to use the tools well? In addition to this, what does my personal online presence look like? Does it really speak to my ideal customer? And am I communicating on these multiple channels we talked about before? So that's one of the first big ones, is digital first sales. The other one is, the second trend that goes along with that is hybrid selling. So the other big one I see is that it's not online versus offline. It's the fact that I'm going to connect with you online through LinkedIn. We're going to have a Zoom meeting. Then maybe we'll have a phone call, which is kind of analog. Then we'll hop back online and email each other. Then I might send you a quick text. Then we'll meet in person in your office. And then we'll go back online to formalize the deal with your team around the world. And then I'm still maintaining contact with you throughout other social platforms to nurture while that deal closes over, say, a longer period of time. So that's the other big trend. I've got 10 that I cover in my keynote, but I would say the last one that's really, or second to the last one that I find is important, number 9 on my list of 10, is really the fact that only really motivated, curious self-developers need to apply for sales. And I think that's a really important piece there, is we've got to really think about ourselves as self-developers and realize that we need to invest in ourselves continually to stay ahead and learn. We can't depend upon our company to spoon feed us education around technology, sales process, and all of those things. Things are changing so rapidly, we have to take responsibility for our own learning. And so those are kind of 3 big trends for me in sales, on top of the fact that, of course, AI plus emotional intelligence is what's going to drive sales and business results in the future, and we need to learn how to marry those really well.
Those are insightful trends, Shane. Finally, what advice would you give to sales professionals who want to stay ahead of the curve and leverage AI effectively in their careers?
I think the big one for me is, of course, following thought leaders around AI. So I look at Nick Osborne, who I had on the show earlier, and he's a really forward-thinking applier of AI when it's related to marketing and copywriting. I think about Chris Krug, who's a friend of mine, who's focused on AI for creatives. And then I look at Jeremiah Ao Yang, who's out of San Diego, San Francisco, and what he's doing in the marketplace to create education around AI. So I found a few thought leaders which I really are doing great things. And for me, it's following great thought leaders. So hopefully this podcast is one of them for you, but find your thought leaders in your vertical. There's so much research to be done. And the other one, of course, is have a discipline of whether or not you need it to try out 1 to 2 new AI tools every single week. Just get curious, play with them. And if you do that, I believe that you're going to stay ahead of the game.
That's excellent advice, Shane. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on AI and the future of sales. It's been a fascinating conversation, and I'm sure our listeners have gained a lot from it.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, where can our audience find more about you and your work?
Yeah, you can find more about this podcast at closingbigger.net or anywhere you listen to, of course, podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, closingbigger.net. And my main sales training website is salesacademy.ca. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Shane Gibson. Thank you very much for the interview. And I'm looking forward to the feedback from our listeners on the power of AI and this sort of kind of quirky, but hopefully something innovative way that we can now run these types of sessions.
Thank you, Shane. It was a pleasure being part of this interview. I'm sure your listeners will appreciate the innovative approach and the valuable insights you shared. Looking forward to more great episodes from you.
Thank you, ChatGPT 4.0.
You're welcome, Shane.
There you go. So a little rough, a few pauses. I might edit them out. I might put it up raw. But that was my first interview of being interviewed by an AI about a topic I'm passionate about. So this is Shane Gibson's podcast from closingbigger.net.